Bernardine Dohrn, Bernardine Rae Dohrn née Ohrnstein, born January 12, 1942, is a retired law professor and a former leader of the radical Weather Underground. As a leader of the Weather Underground in the early 1970s, Dohrn was on the FBI 10 Most Wanted list for several years. She remained a fugitive, even though she was removed from the list. After coming out of hiding in 1980, Dohrn pleaded guilty to misdemeanor charges of aggravated battery and bail jumping. Dohrn had graduated from the University of Chicago Law School in 1967. During the 1980s, she was employed by the Sidley Austin law firm. From 1991 to 2013, Dohrn was a clinical associate professor of law at the Children and Family Justice Center at Northwestern University School of Law. She is married to Bill Ayers, a co-founder of the Weather Underground. Early life. Bernardine Dohrn was born Bernardine Ohrnstein in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in 1942, and grew up in Whitefish Bay, an upper-middle-class suburb of Milwaukee. Her father, Bernard, changed the family surname to Dohrn when Bernardine was in high school. Her father was Jewish and her mother, Dorothy née Soderberg, was of Swedish background and a Christian Scientist. Dohrn graduated from Whitefish Bay High School, where she was a cheerleader, treasurer of the Modern Dance Club, a member of the National Honor Society, and editor of the school newspaper. She attended Miami University in Oxford, Ohio for 1 year before transferring to the University of Chicago, where she graduated with honors with a BA in political science in 1963. Dohrn received her J.D. from the University of Chicago Law School in 1967. While attending law school, Dohrn began working in support of civil rights movement leader Martin Luther King Jr. and became the first law student organizer for the National Lawyers Guild. Activist career. Students for a Democratic Society involvement. Weather Underground involvement. Statements about Tate LaBianca murders. Dohrn was criticized for comments she made about the murders of actress Sharon Tate and retail store owners Leno and Rosemary LaBianca by the Charles Manson clan. In a speech during the December 1969 War Council meeting organized by the Weathermen, attended by about 400 people in Flint, Michigan, Dohrn said, "First they killed those pigs, then they ate dinner in the same room with them, then they even shoved a fork into the pig Tate's stomach, while in greeting each other delegates to the War Council." Arrests and trials. On August 22, 1969, Dohrn was arrested in Chicago and charged with possession of drugs. The defense argued that Chicago police had conducted an illegal search of the car in which she was a passenger, which led Judge Kenneth R. Wendt of the Narcotics Court of Chicago to dismiss the charges. On September 20, 1969, at an anti-Vietnam War rally at the Davis Cup tennis tournament in Cleveland, police arrested Dohrn and 20 other persons on charges of disorderly conduct. On September 26, 1969, Dohrn was arrested again in Chicago during a rally in support of the 8 men accused of conspiracy concerning protests during the 1968 Democratic National Convention, who were on trial for riot conspiracy charges. Dohrn was next arrested on October 9, 1969, by the Chicago police during a rally for the women's faction of the Weathermen Group and was later released on a $1,000 bond. On October 31, 1969, a grand jury indicted 22 people, including Dohrn, for their involvement with the trial of the Chicago 8, and she was again indicted on April 2, 1970, when a federal grand jury indicted 12 members of the Weathermen Group on conspiracy charges in violation of anti-riot acts during the Days of Rage. However, all of these convictions were reversed on November 21, 1972, by the United States Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit on the basis the judge was biased in his refusal to permit defense attorneys to screen prospective jurors for cultural and racial bias. Due to the increasing volatility of the Weather Underground led by Dohrn, she was removed in December 1973 after District Court Judge Damon Keith dismissed the case against the Weathermen. That dismissal was followed shortly by another, when, on January 3, 1974, Judge Julius Hoffman dismissed a 4-year-old case against 12 members of the Weatherman faction of the Students for a Democratic Society, including Dohrn. She had been charged with leading the riotous days of rage. Coming out of hiding, while on the run from police, Dohrn used many aliases, including Bernardine Rae Ohrnstein, H.T. Smith. During the last years of their underground life, Dohrn and Ayers resided in Chicago, where they used the aliases Christine Louise Douglas and Anthony J. Lee. In the late 1970s, the Weatherman group split into two factions, the May 19 Coalition and the Prairie Fire Collective, with Dohrn and Ayers in the latter. The Prairie Fire Collective favored coming out of hiding, with members facing the criminal charges against them, while the May 19 Coalition remained in hiding. A decisive factor in Dohrn's decision to come out of hiding were her concerns about her children. The couple turned themselves into authorities in 1980. While some charges relating to their activities with the Weathermen were dropped due to prosecutorial misconduct, see Cointelpro, Dohrn pleaded guilty to misdemeanor charges of aggravated battery and bail jumping, for which she was put on probation. After refusing to testify against ex-Weatherman Susan Rosenberg in an armed robbery case, Dohrn was held in contempt of a grand jury and served 7 months in prison. Shortly after turning themselves in, Dohrn and Ayers became legal guardians of Chesa Boudin, the son of former members of the Weather Underground Kathy Boudin and David Gilbert, after the couple were convicted of murder for their roles in a 1981 armored car robbery. Later life and professional career. From 1984 to 1988, Dohrn was employed by the Chicago law firm Sidley Austin, where she was hired by Howard Trinans, the head of the firm, who knew Thomas G. Ayers, Dohrn's father-in-law. "We often hire friends," Trinans told a reporter for the Chicago Tribune. However, Dohrn had not been admitted to the New York or Illinois bar, even though she had passed both bar exams. She did not submit an application to the New York Supreme Court's Committee on Character and Fitness, and she was turned down by the Illinois Ethics Committee because of her criminal record. Trinans said of the Illinois rejection, "Dohrn didn't get a law license because she's stubborn. She wouldn't say she's sorry." In 1991, Dohrn was hired by Northwestern University School of Law as an adjunct professor. Her title was Clinical Associate Professor of Law. She was one of the founders of the Children and Family Justice Center in the Bloom Legal Clinic at Northwestern Law. Because Dohrn was hired as an adjunct to temporary assignment, her appointment did not require faculty approval. When law school officials were asked whether or not the dean or the board of trustees approved the hiring, the school responded as follows. While many would take issue with views Ms. Dohrn espoused during the 1960s, her career at the law school is an example of a person's ability to make a difference in the legal system. She retired from Northwestern Law in 2013. Later politics. In 1994, Dohrn said, "I still see myself as a radical." In 2008, Dohrn and Ayers resurfaced into news headlines as presidential candidate John McCain and his running mate Sarah Palin publicly denounced the ties between Ayers and then presidential candidate Barack Obama. In a November 4, 2010 interview, Dohrn described the right in the U.S. as racist, armed, hostile, and unspeakable. Referring to the August 28, 2010 Restoring Honor rally, which was promoted by Glenn Beck and held at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., Dohrn said, "You have white people armed, demanding the end to the Obama presidency." She has also asserted that the real terrorist is the American government, state terrorism unleashed against the world.